Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news at 6 on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. India observes Rashtriya Ekta Divas to mark birth anniversary of Iron Man of India, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. President, Vice President and Prime Minister pay tributes to the architect and unifier of modern India. Nation pays homage to Indira Gandhi on her 33rd death anniversary. Many political leaders pay tributes to the former Prime Minister at Shakti Sthal. World Bank slated to release its Ease of Doing Business Index today. Reports state that India expected to move up as much as 30 positions to rank 100th among 190 countries. BJP names former Chief Minister Prem Kumar Dhumal as its chief ministerial candidate in Himachal Pradesh. Party Chief Amit Shah expresses confidence that BJP will come to power with a massive majority under his leadership. And FBI counsel Robert Mueller files charges on Russian links to Donald Trump's election campaign. Trump's former campaign manager Paul Manafort and advisor Rick Gates charged on 12 counts. Well, today is the 142nd birth anniversary of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the country's first deputy prime minister. Prime Minister Narendra Modi led the country in paying tributes to the freedom fighter. A run for unity was also organized across the country to pay respects to the leader who is known for his uncompromising efforts in keeping India united after independence.
To commemorate the 142nd birth anniversary of India's Iron Man, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, thousands of people took part in the run for unity across different cities. In Delhi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi flagged off the run that started from Major Dhyan Chand National Stadium to the India Gate radial. The Prime Minister said every Indian is proud of Sardar Patel's contribution to the country before and after it attained freedom.
ये सरदार वल्लभभाई पटेल का संकल्प बल था, ये सरदार वल्लभभाई पटेल की दीर्घ दृष्टि थी कि उन्होंने शाम दाम दंड भेद हर प्रकार की नीति, कूटनीति, रणनीति उसका उपयोग करते हुए बहुत ही कम समय में देश को एकता के सूत्र में बांध दिया.
The Prime Minister also criticized the previous governments for ignoring the legacy of Sardar Patel.
शायद हमारे देश की नई पीढ़ी को उनसे परिचित ही नहीं करवाया गया. एक प्रकार से इतिहास के झरोखे से इस महापुरुष के नाम को या तो मिटा देने का प्रयास हुआ या तो उसको छोटा करने का प्रयास हुआ.
The 1.5-kilometer run for unity saw the participation of a large number of people, including sports personalities like Sardar Singh, Deepa Karmakar, Suresh Raina and Karnam Malleshwari. Several union ministers also took part in the event.
जिस समय भारत आजाद हुआ था, ऊहापोह की स्थिति थी. कई रियासतों में यह भारत बटा हुआ था. सारी रियासतों को एकजुट करने में सबसे महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका यदि किसी ने निभाई तो वह सरदार वल्लभभाई पटेल ने भी निभाई. एक चुनौती जहां सारी रियासतों को एकजुट करने की उनके सामने थी, वहीं पर सांप्रदायिकता के संघर्ष की विभीषिका में सारा भारत जैसे लग रहा था कि जल रहा हो, उससे भी निजात दिलाने की जिम्मेदारी, उससे भी निजात दिलाने की चुनौती यदि थी तो सरदार वल्लभभाई पटेल के ऊपर थी.
The central government observes 31st October as Rashtriya Ekta Divas, describing it as a special occasion to foster and reinforce its dedication to preserve and strengthen the unity, integrity and security of the country. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu addressed the National Conference on Life and Times of Sardar Patel on Tuesday. He stressed that Sardar Patel was the architect and unifier of modern India. Vice President Naidu, however, said it was unfortunate that there has been no proper recognition of the monumental contribution made by Sardar Patel and his legacy in unifying the country at the most critical juncture in its history.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu addressed the national conference titled Making of Gandhian Nationalist, Life and Times of Sardar Patel. The Vice President said Sardar Patel placed the country's interests above everything else and shaped India's destiny with single-minded devotion. He emphasized that every Indian needs to remember the invaluable contribution of Patel in building a modern and unified India as the country marches ahead as one of the largest economies in the world.
Sardar Patel's life gives inspiration to each one. I would like the younger generation to read, to visit Sardar Patel's life.
The Vice President also noted that Patel's vision for a unified India saw the creation of the All India Administrative Services, which he described as the steel frame. His exhortation to probationers to maintain utmost impartiality and incorruptibility of administration is as relevant today as it was then.
Earlier it was a mission. Now some people are turning it to a commission, giving remission and committing many omissions. This has to be kept in mind. He forewarned at that time itself, Sardar Patel, even the people in this service. Following his death, the Manchester Guardian wrote, quote, Patel was not only the organizer for the fight of freedom, but also architect of the new state when the fight was over. The same man is seldom successful as a rebel and a statesman. Sardar Patel was the exception.
Displaying the vision of a statesman, tact, diplomacy and pragmatic approach, Patel prevented the balkanization of India. He ensured the merger of over 560 princely states with the Union of India at a critical and most turbulent period in the history of the country. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the nation is also observing the 33rd death anniversary of former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, former President Pranab Mukherjee and Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi paid tributes to Indira Gandhi. In a tweet, Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid tribute to the former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Pranab Mukherjee, Manmohan Singh and Rahul Gandhi were the first ones to pay floral tributes to the late Prime Minister at Shakti Sthal, where her last rites took place. They also attended a prayer meeting at the Indira Gandhi Memorial. Many former union ministers, senior Congress leaders and MPs also marched. Congress President Sonia Gandhi could not attend the programs as she is unwell. Indira Gandhi was appointed the president of the Congress party in 1959 and served as the Prime Minister of the country from 1966 to 1977 and again from January 14, 1980 till her death in 1984. Indira Gandhi was assassinated in 1984 by her bodyguards a few months after Operation Blue Star in Amritsar to counter the Punjab insurgency. Well, the World Bank is scheduled to release its Ease of Doing Business 2018 report later in the evening today. The World Bank compares different economies and finds out how business-friendly they are in terms of rules and regulations. In its last edition, the World Bank had ranked India 130th among 190 countries. Soon after the Doing Business 2017 report, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had asked officials to ramp up efforts to introduce reforms and push for improved rankings. In this year's report, India hopes to break into the top 100 nations or close to 100, a jump of 30 rankings. Well, in a first high-level visit after the 73-day-long Doklam standoff was resolved, Bhutan's royal couple arrived in New Delhi on Tuesday on a 4-day visit to India. The royal couple was received by External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj at the airport. During the visit, Bhutanese King Jigme Khesar Wangchuk and his wife Queen Jetsun Pema Wangchuk will meet President Ramnath Kovind and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj and other ministers will also call on the king. According to the MEA, the visit is aimed at reviewing bilateral cooperation, including plans for befitting celebrations of 50 years of diplomatic relations between the two countries next year. The visiting dignitary is also scheduled to meet Finance Minister Arun Jaitley. He will conclude his visit on November 3rd. Early this month, Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar had also travelled to Bhutan and held talks with the king. Well, India and Singapore have decided to increase their engagement in defence and trade. In the face of new challenge in the Asia-Pacific region, the two countries also decided to engage in regular naval exercises. An understanding to this effect was made at a joint ministerial meeting in New Delhi on Tuesday. The meeting, that was chaired jointly by External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj and Singapore Foreign Minister Vivian Balakrishnan. External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Ravish Kumar later said there is a political convergence between both sides, even on multilateral issues, including the United Nations. On a two-day visit to the country, the Singapore Foreign Minister will be in Guwahati on Wednesday to launch a skill development centre with his country's help. The Bharatiya Janata Party has announced Prem Kumar Dhumal as its chief ministerial candidate for the upcoming elections in Himachal Pradesh. A two-time chief minister, Dhumal's name was declared by BJP President Amit Shah at a rally in Solan. In the last few elections, the BJP has refrained from declaring its chief ministerial candidates. The cases in point are Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand, where the party waited until the results were out. 73-year-old Dhumal will now challenge Congress's Veerbhadra Singh in a direct fight to be held on November 9th.
पूरे देश भर में भाजपा मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में लड़ रही है, मगर आपको सुनना है कि हिमाचल में भाजपा किसके नेतृत्व में लड़ रही है। तो मैं आज स्पष्ट किए देता हूं वीरभद्र जी, हिमाचल के अंदर भारतीय जनता पार्टी धूमल जी के नेतृत्व में चुनाव लड़ने के लिए जा रही है।
Well, Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis has announced that the army will help build a new foot-over bridge at the Elphinstone Road station in Mumbai. Fadnavis said this after visiting the site along with Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and Railway Minister Piyush Goyal to take stock of the situation. The new bridge will be constructed by the military's engineering wing and will be ready for use by the end of February 2018. Meanwhile, Piyush Goyal also added that 3 new railway bridges will be built at some of the busiest stations in Mumbai to avoid another Elphinstone-like tragedy. The old bridge collapsed on September 29th, leaving 23 dead and 35 others injured.
जनवरी तक इन ब्रिजेस का निर्माण वो यहाँ पर करेंगे। एल्फिस्टन रोड का ब्रिज भी बनाया जाएगा, करी रोड का भी बनाया जाएगा और अम्बीवली का भी बनाया जाएगा। ऐसे 3 ब्रिजेस का निर्माण यहाँ पर हो रहा है। मैं ऐसा मानता हूँ कि देश के इतिहास की ये पहली घटना है कि हमारी सेना इस प्रकार से कार्य कर रही है। वैसे जब आपत्ति आती है तो हमारी सेना बहुत बढ़िया काम करती है, लेकिन इस बार इस दुर्घटना के बाद हमने सेना को और माननीय रक्षा मंत्री को ये निवेदन किया कि ऐसी आपत्ति फिर न आए, इसलिए आपकी मदद की आवश्यकता है। और हमारी सेना और रक्षा मंत्री जी और रेलवे मंत्री जी इन्होंने इसको मान्यता दी है।
सभी अधिकारियों ने मिलिट्री के अफसरों के साथ मिलकर जब सर्वे किया तो ये 3 ब्रिजेस एल्फिंस्टन रोड, सेंट्रल रेलवे पे करी रोड और थाना में सेंट्रल रेलवे पे अम्बीवली, इन तीनों को आइडेंटिफाई किया गया कि ये ज्यादा यहाँ पे फुटफॉल है, पैसेंजर फुटफॉल।
Teams came on and off to these stations, and as was announced by the Honorable Chief Minister, the 3 stations were assessed and a call was taken. I went back to Manya Piyush Goyal ji to say this is how we would, if at all we are doing, we can cooperate in the seeing the urgency of the matter.
Well, taking into account the reports of attack on Indian students in Milan, Italy, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj on Tuesday said that she had received a detailed report in this regard and was monitoring the situation. In the meantime, Sushma Swaraj asked the students not to panic. Indian students living in Italy have been attacked in successive incidents, according to the Indian consulate in Milan, which on Monday issued an advisory on the matter. The Consul General of India in Milan is said to have received reports of assaults and informed the students that the same has been brought to the notice of higher authorities, while also urging them to be careful. While it is not clear if the assaults were racial, the students have been asked to stay in touch with the consulate. Here's a roundup of the other news making news across the country and nationwide. A Tamil Nadu cadre trainee IPS officer was arrested after Intelligence Bureau officers caught him cheating in the Union Public Service Commission main examination. As per investigators, Safir Karim, an assistant superintendent of police in Nanguneri, Tirunelveli, took a cell phone, a Bluetooth-enabled miniature camera in a shirt button and wireless earpieces into the examination hall. Karim's wife, Joycey Joy, and assistant superintendent of police dictated the answers to him. Educational institutions in Chennai and Kanchipuram were forced shut on Tuesday following heavy rains. The Met Department has predicted heavy to very heavy rain in some areas of coastal districts, including Chennai and neighbouring areas. One person died due to heavy rain in Thanjavur district. Trinamool Congress MP Saugata Roy today appeared before the Enforcement Directorate for questioning on his alleged involvement in the Narda scandal. Roy, who was summoned by the agency, went to the ED office in Salt Lake. The Lok Sabha member from Dum constituency was one of the several Trinamool Congress MPs, MLAs and ministers who were purportedly shown accepting money from a businessman in a sting video. The Delhi High Court today rejected Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's plea for summoning witnesses, documents of Delhi and District Cricket Association in a defamation case by Arun Jaitley. Also, the AAP leaders had allegedly attacked Jaitley and his family members in various including social media, in various forms including social media, or the alleged irregularities and financial bungling in the DDCA. Moving on to some international news now. The investigation into an alleged Russian link into US President Donald Trump's election campaign has taken a new twist, with the indictment of Trump's former campaign manager Paul Manafort and his former advisor Rick Gates. While the two have pleaded not guilty, another of his aides has admitted to lying to the FBI. Trump, though, denies all allegations, calling the Robert Mueller probe a witch hunt.
FBI Special Counsel Robert Mueller has filed the first charges of his investigation into Russian links to Donald Trump's election campaign. Federal investigators probing the alleged Russian interference in the 2016 US election charged Trump's former campaign manager Paul Manafort and his former foreign policy advisor Rick Gates on 12 counts, ranging from money laundering to felony charges of conspiracy against the United States. Appearing in court, both Manafort and Gates pleaded not guilty to the charges. The court has ordered house arrest for both of them and set a $10 million unsecured bond for Manafort and a $5 million unsecured bond for Gates.
There is no evidence that Mr. Manafort or the Trump campaign colluded with the Russian government. Mr. Manafort represented pro-European Union campaigns for the Ukrainian. Those activities ended in 2014, over 2 years before Mr. Manafort served in the Trump campaign.
Trump's former advisor George Papadopoulos, however, pleaded guilty to making a false statement to the FBI about contacts with Russian operatives. According to a court filing submitted by Mueller, at least 2 high-level Trump campaign supervisors and other officials were aware of Papadopoulos' contacts and communications with the Russians who aimed to defeat Hillary Clinton. Denying any allegations of collusion with the Russians, US President Donald Trump has called the Mueller probe a witch hunt. In a tweet, he said that the allegations against Manafort were from years ago.
Today's announcement has nothing to do with the president, has nothing to do with the president's campaign or campaign activity. The real collusion scandal, as we've said several times before, has everything to do with the Clinton campaign. There are no activities or official capacity in which the Trump campaign was engaged in any of these activities. Most of them took place well before the campaign ever even existed.
Independent and Democrat senators have expressed confidence in Mueller's investigation.
I hope very much that President Trump fully understands that he will not interfere or try to obstruct this investigation.
I have the highest level of confidence in him. And wherever he takes this, we should stand on a bipartisan basis behind him and say that the Constitution is more important than any single politician.
Mueller has been investigating Manafort's financial and real estate dealings and his prior work for the political group, the Party of Regions, which backed former Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych. Indictment of Trump's aides is the most serious step in Mueller's 5-month-old investigation into the Russian hand in Trump's win against Hillary Clinton. The next hearing is slated for the 2nd of November. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, here's a roundup of some other news from across the world in Global Buzz. Some 600 refugees and asylum seekers remained barricaded inside a detention center in Papua New Guinea. Detainees were defying attempts by Australia and PNG to close the controversial Manus Island centre, saying they fear violent reprisals from the local community if they move to a transit centre. The closure is a part of an Australian government plan to push refugees and asylum seekers to either return to their home country, settle in PNG or move elsewhere. One person was killed in a shooting incident at the University of Utah. The campus was on lockdown for several hours after the incident. The university said shots were fired at Red Butte Canyon area. Authorities were searching for a male suspect identified as Austin J. Boutin, who was considered armed and dangerous. Commuter train services were also suspended near the school. Four Rohingya Muslims, including a man, woman and 2 children, drowned after a small wooden fishing boat carrying dozens of refugees fleeing ethnic violence in Myanmar capsized off the Bangladesh coast. People living in Cox's Bazar pulled 37 survivors out of the water, out of which 11 were admitted to hospital in a critical condition. Well, let's now shift focus and bring you up to speed with some sports news in Sports Beat. In the Women's Asia Cup Hockey, India defeated Malaysia 2-0 in the third and final match to enter the quarter-final stage of the tournament. Vandana Kataria and Gurjeet Kaur scored 1 goal each in the 54th and 55th minutes. Earlier, India defeated China 4-1 and Singapore 10-1 to top Pool A. Tina Sidhu has won the 10-meter air pistol gold medal in the Commonwealth Shooting Championships in Brisbane. Sidhu scored 626.2 points to claim the medal. This was Sidhu's second successive international gold after she claimed the top position in the 10-meter air pistol mixed team event along with Jitu Rai in the ISSF World Cup finals earlier in the month. Among other Indians, Deepak Kumar won a bronze medal in the 10-meter air rifle event. Gagan Narang finished 4th, while Ravi Kumar ended 5th. In tennis, Richard Gasquet and Julien Benneteau of France won their respective matches at the Paris Masters to advance to the second round. Gasquet beat compatriot Benoit Paire 6-3, 4-6, 6-4, while Julien Benneteau beat Canada's Denis Shapovalov 6-4, 6-4. While Gasquet will face 6-seeded Grigor Dimitrov in the second round, Benneteau will face 11-seeded Joe Wilfried Tsonga. Britain's Olympic and world champion Mo Farah has split with longtime coach Alberto Salazar because he wanted to move back to London with his family. The 4-time Olympic and world champion posted a video on his Twitter page explaining his decision. Farah moved to Portland, Oregon in 2011 to work with Salazar. Salazar has been surrounded by doping allegations for the last 2 years. But Farah said the reasons for him leaving Oregon was that he missed home and wanted to work with a new coach. The Olympic flame was handed to organizers of the 2018 Pyeongchang Games as it heads off on a 100-day journey in South Korea. Greek actress Katerina Lehou led the 90-minute ceremony in Athens at the Pantheon Stadium. The flame was then handed over to Greek Olympic Committee President Cypros Kapralos, who passed it to Pyeongchang Organizing Committee head Lee Hee-byom. The South Korean leg of the relay will involve 7,500 torchbearers and visit 17 cities and provinces. That's it on this newscast. Do stay tuned for the big picture on the other side of the short break.